Hi, and welcome to another episode of Money Talk. Money Talk is a program podcast that talks and introduces you, my audience, to people that help other people make money. And today I've got an incredibly special guest, somebody that has made other people shine on stages worldwide. And the exciting part is that he's also a really, really great guy and my friend. So I've got two requests right now. And that is, I'd like you to share this with everybody that you know. Share it. Don't keep it to yourself. Like, love, share, and be sure to subscribe. My second request is stay tuned because I'll be right back. Linda gave me the courage, the confidence to move forward.
And after I was finished with Linda Kaye's training, I was at the next level.
It's Linda Kaye. When you trust that piece of you that says, I got something to give, I have something to say, you know you've got something to do.
Get on your feet, shake your hands in the air. Welcome to the stage, Linda Kaye.
And I did promise I'd be right back, so here I am. And let me just tell you, I am so excited about who I've got coming on today. Not only is he a producer, writer, and business executive with 4 decades of experience across all the entertainment industry, he's a founding partner of THK Media. He's also formed in just this last year the She Did It Records label with his partners Tae Smith and Sampson. He's worked with some of the biggest names in the industry, and he ain't even done. He's getting ready to start that 4.5 decade, and I just can't wait to bring him on. So without further ado, welcome to the stage, my good friend and brother from another mother, David Harvey.
Hi, David. Thank you for inviting me today.
You're so welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. Now, you've been in the music industry for a while, but what I'd like to know is, people oftentimes have an inspiration, usually have an influence for what they started doing, or they could have started it earlier, or something that they saw somebody else do on stage. Who were your earliest influences?
Well, I first got the music bug when I was 10 years old, of course, hearing people like the Beatles and James Brown, and which to this day are people that are just talented beyond a level you can imagine. That there's certain amounts of talent when you hear it, it's not like other talent, and you can hear it 50 years later, 100 years later, even talking of the great classical composers. It's the same thing, and that's what inspired me.
It's so true. And I'm so glad you said that, because many of us think, oh, well, this is brilliant, or it's just a trend, or it just happened. But when I think it vibrates at a much, much higher level, that talent that you talked about it, the classics and the greats, from the Bachs to the Beethovens to the Beatles and James Brown. But, you did this early on, but then you decided, I'm up in Northern California. This is not where it's happening. I need to move to LA. Why?
Well, absolutely. If you want to follow your dream and passion in whatever you choose to do, you need to go where it is going on. And so the choices obviously were Los Angeles, Nashville, or New York. And I chose LA because I like warm weather.
Exactly. And you're a California boy from the very beginning. So where do you hail from?
Northern California. I grew up in a small town up in Northern California, Redding, California.
Redding.
And everybody, that wanted to be in the music business knew you had to go to a big city. And even Bay Area is different than, you could go to Bay Area, but LA is LA.
No, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I would say that LA doesn't have as distinguishable a sound, like, say, when you say, well, that's the Bay Area vibe, or that's the Philly sound, or that's the New York vibe. But LA had something else. I think in LA, you got a cross-pollination of so many talents from all different stages. Where'd you go first?
In my career?
Yeah.
Well, the first breaks that I got, which I'm incredibly grateful for, because I'm well aware after all these years that any breaks you get are amazing. There's no such thing as as not having what they call a lucky break. And
some of us had more of those lucky breaks than others, but you had one.
So I moved down here, and in my 20s still, I started writing and producing for Atlantic Records, which when I think back on it now, when I know people entering the music industry in 2023, that ain't going to happen for them.
No, and I think a lot of people come to Los Angeles, or even, with the stages that we have today, David, the fact that you can publish something and get it out and have it heard and get a buzz and a vibe going for it in a whole different way than you did. But back in the day, and we're not talking, back in the 50s, we're talking, the 70s and 80s and 90s.
Right. Correct.
Right? So 80s and 90s, there was only one way for you to get your sound out there, and that was to get the attention of a record label.
They came to see you at the club, right?
Right. I remember these dance parties. I remember the record parties when I was working with Janet, and to get a song heard, and before it actually went out on radio, before they started publishing it, you wanted to get some feedback. You wanted to get into you wanted to get into the clubs and have people hear it and go, "Oh my God, I need that. I want that." Well, who were some of the big names that you were working with?
Well, I had great fortune along my career. One of the first major stars that I worked with was the Pointer Sisters. And
who doesn't know them and love them? Oh my God.
They were amazing. I got a call from a writer that a friend had asked me he wanted to break into writing. And this goes to the aspect of always being open to helping other people do things. And he wanted to write songs. So she said, "Do you mind if I bring along my friend? He wants to write songs." So we wrote this song. It was a great song. And then we both went our different ways. And later I just get a call one day, and he's become a big deal. He's written all these hits for all these people. And he says,
can you name drop?
Like Anita Baker. He had a song called "Just Because." I love you just because I do.
Oh my God. Huge hit.
Yeah. And he was writing for all of, we call them the divas at that time, all the great female singers. And so
there were so many of them. Oh my God, there were so many of them.
There were so many of them at that time. And I remember he just gave me Anita Pointer's address, and I drove there, and I brought along a track finished.
Wait a minute. He gives you an address. This is, this is before stalker laws, David. So you drive to, was she expecting you? Did you call her?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
No, he was there. They were all there. The girls were all there. They were ready for a writing session.
Oh my God. So there's the sisters. They're all waiting, and you show up. What happens?
Well, I play them the song. They love it. And I give them the melody and some of the lyrics. And all of a sudden we do a rendition. We record it. And I still have that recording to this day. I don't have it with me available today to play.
Oh, thank you, because I was going to ask. Thankfully, you told me that, because I was going to say, "Where is it, David? Give it to me."
Well, to this day, it's magical because they sang it down the first time, and this is what I mean about real talent. And they did all these ad libs and all these background parts, and it was perfect the first time, and it was magical. And at the end of the song, June, which, is kind of sad because, a few of them are gone now. And I have it on the recording. It's great. At the end of the recording, she goes, "Yeah, that's enough of you. That's enough for you."
It was as if they were auditioning for you and you were auditioning for them. What a great, great story.
And I love that. To this day, when I hear her say, "Yeah, that's enough for you," like, we could, we just showed you what we do, and believe me, it was,
Oh, that is so good. That is so good. You also worked with Dr. Dre and Fleetwood Mac. So you've got to have a Dre story, because I got a Dre story for you too.
Well, Dr. Dre and that was when he was with Eazy-E.
Yep.
And how that happened was I had a good friend named Jimmy Z. And Jimmy had already worked with, Rod Stewart, the Eurythmics, the Etta James, the list is long. And so he wanted to start his own career because he had worked as a sideman, and just to give the audience the idea who Jimmy Z is, there was a song the Eurythmics did called Missionary Man with the harmonica. And that's Jimmy Z. He's probably the world's greatest harmonica player without question.
Oh, wait a minute. There was Toots Tillman, but that was another period, right?
Another period. I'm talking about in the modern, Missionary Man. The man's got amazing soul and creativity. And he wanted to start his own career as an artist. So he said, well, I know a way to get to Dr. Dre and Eazy-E. So I started to put together music and tracks for him. And he brought it to him and they loved it and said, let's do an album. And Eazy-E, of course, was the president of the label at the time. And so we went in. So we started working on an entire album. I started writing with Dr. Dre on other songs. And it was an amazing adventure. And right as we were finishing that, I had a friend that called me into the studio to do some keyboards and guitar work, which is my main thing I come from. And it was Fleetwood Mac. And so the session's in and everything. And Mick looks at me and he goes, how would you like to join the band playing guitar and keyboards?
Where do I sign?
So he brings out John, his partner, John McVie, and they come see me play in a club because I'm out playing. It's like the audition.
Right.
And so that's another incredible, adventure.
That's amazing. And of course, we all know what happened, right?
Which part?
Did you go play with them?
Well, actually, it's interesting. I had a second child on the way.
The answer is no. You're not going on the road.
No, I wasn't going to go on the road because I had a new baby. So after all the rehearsals and getting ready, that's where it ended. But it was still a great adventure during the time.
It was a total adventure. Oh my God. And the stories you had to be able to tell. I have one story about Dr. Dre. I was managing first calls at that time, first call singers and musicians. And for the audience that doesn't know what a first call is, they're also called first takes. And so if you hire somebody that's a first call, they come into the studio, they hear it, they lock it down, run down a track, and it's done. It's one and done, right? So they're really at the top of their game.
Like
anyway,
right?
Right, exactly. And so if the Pointer Sisters were brought in to do something in a studio as a background or collaboration, they probably nailed it on the first time, right?
Absolutely.
So I had one of my artists, Howard McCrary at the time, and he was in my living room practicing and playing. He says, I got a couple of artists that need to, I need to work with today. Can they come into your house? And I lived in the Hollywood Hills at the time. I came home and I saw spinning on, this is back in the day when breakdancing was just breaking out, right? There's Dr. Dre in my living room spinning, doing a head spin on my hardwood floor next to the piano. That's my Dr. Dre story.
That's a great story. He was, I got to say, he was wonderful to work with every minute,
Totally genuine human being.
Yes.
Totally. You talked a second ago about collaboration, and I think that, all great projects really start with the collaboration. Nobody can really just take one idea, and especially on such a large world stage, and do it by themselves. You've got to have people, and in an ego-centered business, I think that one of the most important things that we do as artists is learn how to set that ego aside so that we can let the project take a life of its own. And the minute that energy starts up, it takes you to a whole different level. That helps you meet a lot of different people. Talk to me about where that took you next in a different genre.
I'm gonna talk about that, but I wanted to just address what you said because it's fascinating. The most classic example of collaboration that I love is John and Paul, and how Paul would bring a song and John would go, "That's garbage. You need this." Vice versa. It's incredible because it's hard when you write something or do something to hear that. He would talk about how to make it better and how to collaborate.
Better. I'm sorry. You got you.
Exactly. So the next journey in my career happened with I I made friends with a gentleman named Mendel Tropper, who happened to be my neighbor. And he started working on a script for a film. And Mendel had just finished producing a film called My Sister's Keeper, starring Cameron Diaz. And this was his first big success. Wow. And it ended up being a blockbuster $100 million summer film.
Yeah, so, just a small project.
Well, he came over and he loved the music things I was doing, but he said, why don't we do something for film? Because I'm having some success in there.
A little bit, don't you think?
Yeah, a little bit. So we wrote a script, and then, as all people in Hollywood do, when you finish a script, you go shopping it. You try to get it to anyone and everyone.
Right.
So the
Same
script
with musicians, right? You go out and you start shopping that song, or you go shop that song for an artist to cover it, right? It's
the same. And with the script, so somebody knew somebody that knew an engineer that worked with this producer named Howard Kazan. It's always somebody knows somebody that knows somebody. So they get the script to him, and I get a call from this producer, Howard Kazanjian, and I'll be honest, I had to look him up. So it turns out he was the producer on 2 of the Star Wars films and Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was a big deal.
Right? He is a big deal.
Yeah, he is. The things he's done have been iconic. The people he started out with Alfred Hitchcock as his AD. So we're talking about an icon in the film industry. And he says he likes the script a lot and he wants to get together. So we go meet in a Hollywood type dark restaurant, the old school Hollywood.
Right. The Brown Derby, something classic, sitting up on Sunset.
It was like that. Yeah, it was that kind of thing. And so the first thing he says, which is great, I love it to this day, is, so what do you want from me? It wasn't in a rude way.
No, but that's how, when you're a driver, that's what you do. You don't want to waste. I think that somebody of that caliber, anybody, that can identify with that personality type, you're talking about somebody that says, I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to be taken advantage of. So in this instance, what he's saying to you is, how can I help you? But get to the point.
Right. But rather than saying, how can I help you? But so
no, it's not what drivers do.
So, imagine I'm young. And so I go, well, you read the script and you like it? He goes, yeah, I really like it. I really, and I said, well, we would like you to co-produce with us and help us make this film. And, of course he was waiting to hear do you have any money? And I wasn't asking that. I was just asking him if he liked it, if he would work with us.
Right. Bring value. That's what you're talking about. Bring it on and bring value. Stop asking for the things that somebody else might obviously want to ask him for, right?
Yes.
Back a little bit. How did he respond?
And he was like, absolutely, I'm in. Let's do it. And to this day, we're very close friends. And from that first endeavor, he ended up being a partner in our company, me being David Harvey, Mendel Tropper, Howard Kazanjian. That's THK Media.
Oh my God.
What he said to me was he didn't really like the Hollywood scene at all, because Howard is 100% creative. He doesn't like the politics. He doesn't like the games. He started out working with Alfred Hitchcock, and that's who taught him how to make films. And then he ends up working with Spielberg and Lucas. So at the point,
these names, who doesn't know these names? And to be in the presence of such greatness, what a humbling experience for you. And for listeners, I really want you to take this in for a second, because you never know where that next step is going to take you. You have to be open to that possibility. Absolutely. You also need to be upping your level at the vibrational level. And I'm going to talk about this a couple of times. And vibrational level, by that I mean like attracts like. So when you're in that mindset, and the mindset that you're describing, which was no BS, let's find the art in this, in this instance, you attracted that, and now you produce that result in the collaboration in these three, between three brilliant minds. Three heads think better than one, right?
Yes, and he was, he always brought everything right where it needed. He had a power attorney, and the power attorney gets us in touch with guess who to direct the film, Jack Nicholson. Which is like
another small name.
And it just what was great for me was to see how getting to know the man and becoming friends. I mean, it's amazing life experience to be talking on a Saturday with your friend and they're telling you about how they shot Yoda in the swamp, and how they had to make it realistic because there's this little puppet up talking to everybody about life.
Yeah, it's real, especially as the years start moving.
And hearing him talk about working with Alfred Hitchcock, and it's just, and we became such good friends. He's such a wonderful man, and he said that he would be partners with us because he loved working with us. It was the people part. He knew we weren't on his level, but he didn't care. It was about liking people, wanting to work with people you liked, and that's
huge. That's really huge, because you're talking about then something about the quality of you as a human being and your partner, that he wants to be part of that. And, again, you weren't looking for something that most people would have been looking for. It's easy to say, I've got this great idea or got this great project. All I need is, $1 million, right?
Right.
You didn't ask for that. And that showed a whole different level and quality of a human being. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Where does this lead you next?
Well, next, my partner Mendel had found out about this children's animated show called Hey Wordy that was having success on PBS. So he talked to Howard and I about it, and we went down to the animation studio, and we thought it was fantastic because one of the goals of our company was not just to produce media that was successful. It was media that would be enlightening, educational, and still entertain, but bring something positive to the world. And this show taught young children about other cultures and languages in an amazingly fun way, with music, of course, which attracted me. And
why wouldn't it attract? Because
it was all based around music, and that is so we ended up working on this film called Celebrate the World. And so I ended up writing a piece of music for that film with one of the principals in the show. And so I got to get my music fix out of it.
I have a sneaking feeling that what you just did is you just queued something up. And I'm going to ask you, do you have something for our audience to hear a little bit about Celebrate and about Hey Wordy, or what have you got for us?
Well, I can play you. It's actually, everybody loves the closing song for the movie. So that's what it is. It's the closing credits song called Celebrate the World.
So you did a movie for Hey Wordy.
Yes.
And then out of that movie, so this project took a life of its own. So he had a little bit of something already to attract you, the talent and the interest and the quality of what the message was saying, that message to kids, which was universal. Be open-minded, be open-hearted, right? And just because something is different, whether it's the language or it's the culture, or the clothes, or whatever it is, there is a universal message here to accept.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And that was very exciting to me to be able to do that.
I can't imagine how fun that would be. I think you have that queued up. Let's tease our audience with just a little bit of it.
Okay, here we go. This is the closing credits song, Celebrate the World.
Playing in the street, they don't care if you're black or white. They will let you in with an open heart. They know what's wrong or right. Celebrate, 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 celebrate the world with me. Celebrate, 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 celebrate the world. celebrate. You've got to celebrate, celebrate. You've got to celebrate. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate the world. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate the world. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate the world with me. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate the world.
Beautiful, beautiful. Oh my gosh. And you know, sometimes when we create things, we create them with one purpose in mind, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, about how you repurpose this song.
Yes.
And the show was a successful run on PBS. And the reason I think that you've had the success with this as far as you've had to date is because that message just resonates. Not just the idea of celebrate, but the idea of inclusion, which is such a trendy and popular word today, but you were doing it way ahead of trend.
Yes, spectacular for young children to learn about people all around the world.
You know, I think that, you know, when we think about how our music can be used and influence others, I think that as an artist, we have sort of a responsibility, don't you think, to use that voice in a way that can lift other people or show other people. Like in this instance with Kaye, it's with the kids, it's with the message, it's with the animation, it's with, you know, introducing things. But you know, you've seen it happen on so many other stages. And I want you to talk about one stage that you're getting ready to step up onto. You were there pre-COVID and now post-COVID because we've got another election coming up. Talk to me about social causes and the purpose for it.
Okay, so in 2019 and 20, I had come up with the idea because I was seeing all these amazing young kids become social activists and personalities. And when the Parkland kids, when that tragedy happened, about the environment, about, you know, equal rights, women's rights, you know, everything to do with making everyone equal in society and safe. And what really impressed me was these voices, these young voices, where they were just so eloquent and so motivated to really want to make change.
And they weren't just voices of any kind. These were international voices. They didn't necessarily have a stage yet. So in some instances, some were using their voice with as an activist, or some that became an activist as a result of that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. And it's just an amazing cast. I call them superheroes, young superheroes, because each one had their own voice and way that they just spoke to people. I mean, these kids ended up on the cover of Time magazine, and you know, they became social forces, and it was something different than I had seen with the previous generation. You know, because the previous generation experienced 9/11, and I think that greatly affected them, where they kind of checked out. It scared the hell out of them. And yet this generation was something different. They're like, no, I'm going to get out there and make a difference, and I'm going to get involved. And so my idea was to marry that with the music industry, which I was very familiar with, into large events that would motivate young people to vote, to be involved, by them resonating with these causes that they cared about, that these young leaders were so motivated to move forward. So we had scheduled a number of huge live events, and we had already had commitments from all of the young stars. I mean, anyone from Billie Eilish to Sean. And we had all the activists all together. So incredible project. But then this little known thing happened around the world called COVID. And it kind of just stopped the entire world in its tracks, certainly at that time.
Now, hang on a second, because I think you are humbly leaving out one important factor. You didn't just have the attention of the activists, but you had the attention and the ears and the eyes of some pretty incredible names and people that could help you get this to another level. Can you talk about that?
Yes, I had presented the idea to a producer named Harvey Mason Jr., who's now chairman. He's chairman of the Recording Academy. He's an amazing man who has had huge success producing music films, primarily. Like he did the James Brown story, he did the NWA story, he did Sing. I'm forgetting some of them, but he's done most of your major musicals of the last 10 years. He's had his hand in it somehow. And so his connection with music and media. And when I presented him the idea, he was on it in 5 seconds. He loved it. And he started moving things and bringing in all kinds of powerful people from all over the industry to be involved in it. So yes, we had the people on the top, the right people. We had the people, the talent. We had everything ready to go, and it would have been incredibly exciting.
But where were you going to go with this? Where was it going to go? What stage were you going to move across? What prompted this?
Well, it prompted because, seeing these young activists, I realized from studying that there always has been a lot of apathy from young people to vote and be involved about anything. I mean, whether it's at the young ages when people want to do drugs or whatever the cause is. Or
they sign, like 17 people did recently and never, really bothered looking deeply at what that what the content of that was. And so there could be repercussions as well. But you're talking about the apathy and taking of the prior generation, maybe from burnout or from shock or
9/11, whatever.
Whatever that reason was, there was always a reluctance for
to get involved. Yeah, because as far as
wait a minute, stop right there, because you just said the most important thing. We can see many things happening and we can go, well, it's not my problem. I don't have to do anything about it. Yes. It's not my thing. I didn't cause that problem. You took a whole different look at this and you said there are people that are stepping up and leaning in. I want to give them a stage. They've got a voice. I want to give them a stage.
That is exactly right. That's the entire motive, is to blow up these young leaders' stages and have them be able to have more influence, because it's so amazing. Oh my God, this one girl, she started out at Kaye. She was born in India. She lives in Canada. And she started helping with causes at 15 years old. She was going to Syrian refugee camps, trying to help the children at that young age. She's spoken at the United Nations 80 times. And it blew my mind that these young kids were doing so much.
And where could their influence really show up? Where can the kids have, they turn 18 years old, they've now got the ability to have their own influence. What kind of influence are you trying to direct?
I want them to be the leaders of their generation, to be involved and care about things.
What's the overtone message? What do you want them to tell the kids?
Tell them what they're passionate about, why they're involved, their causes. Every one of them has a different cause they care about. But it's interesting to me. I just spoke with some of the principals overseeing the Parkland kids. And when they started out their cause, it was all about gun violence in schools, that it was horrible.
It wasn't just about gun violence, David. I think that what they're saying is enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
Do something about it. We're tired of watching you guys do nothing.
Here's the interesting thing that one of the principals of the board told me. He said they've changed their mission. It's not just about that anymore. Now it is about getting young kids out to vote. Because they realized without participation, what good does it do to just talk about the horrible things going on?
Right. You're just another voice and you're just another voice in the wind. But if you have the ability to go out and say, vote this way, that has impact.
Right. Well, vote with causes that you care about. If this means something to you, do something about it. Don't just, go back home and get high or whatever, go do something. Go march.
Generation, there's less of that.
Yes, there is. It's
completely in our own generation.
Gen Z, it's funny. I talked to a parent the other day. I said, there was a generation where they, like a lot of generations, they got into drugs and everything. She said, no, This generation, we can't get them off the tech. We can't get them out of their phone, you know.
Right. You know, and they're busy they're busy because they can reach and I think in many ways feel the impact of things that are going on worldwide. You've never been able to see, you know, conflict around the world, unfortunately, in many ways that we can because of that. But it also has brought awareness, and I think that's the most incredible thing. But let's go back to what happened now. Did you have to shelf the project?
Well, yes, because of COVID. But Harvey, I spoke with Harvey recently, and he wants to bring it back because there's another year, you know, bring back that stage for those activists and do something again. So we're in an
election year coming up. Yep.
Back to work. And I've spoken to all the activists, and they're amazing. And they now, you know, it's been 4 years. So some of them have, you know, one of them's getting a degree at Cornell. You know, they're all like doing amazing. They're 18, 19 now, 20.
Right.
And they are like, we're there. We haven't stopped making this our life to change the world.
Isn't that incredible?
You would think maybe they went, okay, I did all that. Now I got to get on and do stuff for myself. But no, they haven't stopped, you know.
No. But have you been able to then go back to the same people and say, okay, let's dust this off? We had everything ready to go. You had campaigns, you had stages, you had tours, you had the number of things that you had prepared for this are countless.
Yes. We have new exciting approaches as well. As a matter of fact, I have a call on Monday where we're talking about the next steps, but I'm very excited about it because I'm very excited because I do kind of feel like a lot of these young voices, they were getting a lot of press and a lot of stage at that time. They're not now at all. You know, nobody's hearing from young people. And I'm not talking about them. I'm just talking about, you know, how the news cycle is. I mean, it's one thing over and over and over without getting into what it is, but right. And so that's it. I mean, and now we got horrible wars, and that's taking up all. But I think it's so important that these young, because they're the future, these young voices be heard.
They are our future.
They are able to become leaders of huge movements to motivate young people to want to be involved. And that's what great leaders do. And there's some amazing young kids that deserve to have even more. These are the leaders we should have in the world. These young kids with these hearts and spirits of what they can do. So I'm very excited about, you know, being able to have the opportunity to give them that stage again.
I wish you luck with that. I also know that you're not just a single project guy. You've got your fingers in a lot of different things and a lot of opportunities. One which I started to allude to a little while ago about when you create something and it's got a life of its own, can you repurpose it? And you've got another project going on. Can you talk about 2004 is not only an election year, but it's also an Olympic year. Talk to me about the project that you've got going on now.
Well, this is another revive the project. When I finished the song for Celebrate the World, it was an Olympic year, and someone had heard the song and seen it, and they go, "Oh my God, that's for the Olympics. You need to go, you know, interview Olympic people and have this song be to promote the Olympics." So it kind of sat there in the back of the
project centered around former Olympians, and you know,
correct.
I mean, obviously, you know, with this kind of a project and that kind of attention on a world stage, you know, there have been some hit and misses with the Olympic Committee and some other things that, you know, have made them less viewed on television. And so, what was your focus with this project?
I ended up speaking with a woman who has a nonprofit that's amazing called Kids Play International. And Tracy Evans, Kids Play International was an organization. She's a 3-time Olympian. I mean, she's an amazing woman. 3-time freestyle, you know, snow skiing. And if you know anything about Olympics, that's amazing to win the gold medal 3 times, you know. So when she finished her doing that, the next part of her life, she started this nonprofit. She's helping children in Africa and Asia with gender equality and things of play. Once again, how sports can be one of those unifying factors like music, where everyone can get to understand. And in this case, even in other parts of the world, for boys to understand that girls are their equal as well. And so because of her being in the Olympic world, the Olympics is coming up next. She said, oh, this is incredible for the Olympics, because what the program is going to be about, Celebrate the World, is it's going to be about the Olympic values. And the Olympic values are excellence, friendship, and respect, which is something that is incredible, and so needed today, because excellence is an incredible thing when people strive to not just do something good or good enough, but they strive for excellence. And
well, you've got to have that to be on an Olympic stage. You've got to have that to be in the center stage, whether you're in theater or in film or behind the camera. It doesn't make any difference. That level of excellence is something that's so critical and important. But I have a question. I just want to know, can you show us a tease of this video that you're working on? I know that you're not completed with it and you haven't gotten clearance for everything, but for those that you have, do you have a little sample that you can show us?
A little bit to give you an idea of the project. I think we're ready to go.
All right.
Being in the Olympics, that experience will be with me for the rest of my life.
No one really cares what flag you're wearing or what country is on your back. All those athletes have respect for each other, that they made it to this point.
Everybody in your life that you meet is going to bring something to inspire you or leave a memory with you. Celebrate the world and enjoy it.
Let's celebrate the world.
Celebrate the world.
Celebrate, celebrate.
There you go.
My God. I was like, I want more. Celebrate the world. Oh my goodness. David, this is such an exciting project, and I really want to wish you all the best in all your successes. But you didn't just get there by thinking, okay, I want to work on this and I want to do on that. You have some guiding principles that have led you through this process, and it's led you to the right people to work with. I know that you wrote something called the 7 Principles. And for those that are listening and those that are watching, we're going to drop in just a small gift on those 7 principles. And I guess I'm going to have you back because we're almost out of time. But in this instance, what are one of the most important guiding principles that has guided you from this project to the next and inspiring you to work with others? What are some of the things that are so important to you?
Well, the first principle, which guides everything else, is the principle of, and these are things I've learned from very smart people through the years, is a principle-centered life. And what that means specifically is gratitude versus entitlement, which is huge. If you wake up every day and you're grateful, not entitled, character versus personality, hard work versus gratification. Principles have to be more important, believe it or not, than family, friends, religion, money, work, pleasure, any of those things. Because people have done terrible things in the name of religion, which aren't principle-centered.
No, not at all. But you're talking about the level of honesty and excellence, what you were just talking about in the Olympics.
Yeah, fairness, integrity, excellence, as we talked about, self-awareness, courage, accountability, generosity.
Accountability? What's that?
Right. Be conscious every day of the decisions you make, no matter how big or small. Do the right thing when no one else is looking. And that kind of sums up the principle-centered life. And I'll just talk about one other of the rules is be responsible, and you break that into response-able. And that just means bad things can happen in your life, and you have to train yourself in any situation of being able to be proactive and not reactive, be calm and thoughtful, not angry and devastated. I mean, it's an attitude of how you respond that makes the difference in how things turn out. I just watched the president give a speech, to Israel saying, I know you're really angry and it's horrible things that happened. And yet he said, but don't make them be measured. Don't let the anger and rage control your thoughtful decisions, which I thought was fantastic for that rule. And go ahead.
And that's hard to do when you're in the face of so many losses and so many atrocities.
It is. Well, yeah, it's hard to
apply that to this principle. This is I think that what you're saying is finding that balance between an emotional decision that will drive you to do something that you may regret, or
Right.
being responsibled and enable that responsible response. Is that right?
Absolutely. And those are things that I try to put through in everything we do in media, even to try to teach people those rules.
Well, that has guided you through all of these 4 decades that you've been doing this. And I know that one of the proudest things that you're working on, and by the way, for you listeners, we have dropped that 7 principles gift into the chat. So make sure you pull that down, take a look at it. And David, how would people find you if they wanted to know more about this, or they want to have you as a guest speaker like I have, because this is so awesome, so delightful. How would people find you?
Just David at thkmedia.net. They can drop me a line. Always happy to share and help in any situation.
David at thkmedia.net. Okay, there we go. There it is. There it is. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to have you take us out on something that I know that you're really proud of. She Did It Records. So I think you've got something queued up for us, and something that would introduce your rule number 3, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. And it's a song called Brand New Day, and it does talk about rule number 3 of how to get up every day is a brand new day to have that great attitude. And here we go, Brand New Day.
It's a brand new day. Won't stop, give it up. I'm feeling stronger, baby. Won't stop, give it up. No, I won't stop, live it up. It's a brand new day. Won't stop, give it up.
Well, that was awesome. David, thank you so much for joining us today. I really can't thank you enough for all of the wonderful, wonderful things, the blessings, the messages that you've given, and the excitement that I know our audience is going to feel today. So thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you.
That's it. That's another wrap. And I got to tell you, today was a very exciting day. And I hope that all of you enjoyed the broadcast just as much as I did. Join us again. See you soon. Do you like to talk about money? If you do, and you'd like to be a guest, contact me at lindakay360.com.